For the fifth episode of Player Picks, we have the Crows defender and now midfielder, Rory Laird. Played really well in 2020, priced at 565k for this year, and averaged 118 in the second half of the year. From rounds 9 to rounds 18, just played a lot of midfield time. Most games he had above 70% centre-bounce attendances, bar 2 games I think. So definitely need to speak about Laird and definitely need to consider him for this year. Will he play mid? Will he play defence this year? I'll get into that. I think I can get a decent read on it. It'd be great if we knew for sure, but we don't. But there's some good signs pointing towards midfield. Because he is training with the midfield group a few days ago, which is, the 2021 preseason's just started. So, something to take notice of. And he did start off in defence and at the start of 2020, wasn't playing well, decision making was a little off for a dual All-Australian, so playing below his standards. Moved to half forward for a game or two, played okay there, but if you're going to play half forward, that's not the role we want, but because it's Laird, he can accumulate so well. He's probably being barely passable D6 there. Then moved into the midfield and did not move. Nick's clearly liked him there, and as a Crows supporter, I loved it. I was really impressed with him, and he's out of contract this year, so it is a contract year, so he's playing for a big contract, and if he can show that sort of midfield form where he averaged 118 in the second half of the year, he's going to demand a big contract and a lot of interest from other clubs. So my view is Laird is the best player at the Crows. But is he going to play mid or defence this year? I think Matthew Nicks recognised... Matthew Nicks is quite good with selection at the Crows. Previous coaches that haven't played youth have played players out of position. But Nicks seems to understand the player's best position, and Laird is clearly his best position right now as a midfielder. There was an interview late last year where he said, he still loves playing in defence, but, he's happy to play midfield. So I don't think his days as a defender are done, but if the Crows want to win more, they want to put him in the midfield. So it could be a bit of both midfield and defence. But I'm thinking mostly midfield. And, if he plays defence, he's not going to score. At worst, probably scores, high 80s, low 90s. That's absolute worst case. Best case in the midfield, 120 seems ambitious, but I think he's definitely capable of 110. So Rory Laird in the midfield, very good at ground balls, really good synergy with Riley O'Brien. Brodie Smith has been calling him midfield Laird because of how great he's been playing in the midfield. So quite good at clearances, and in defence, we just get the ball at the back of stoppages a lot. Exiting out of defence, he didn't take kick-ins, but he'd be a part of chains exiting out of defence, and reasonable contested ball winner as well. So a lot of halfback flanks, Jake Lloyd, for example, doesn't get a lot of contested ball, whereas Laird does. And can read the play pretty well. But in the midfield, in terms of competition for spots, there's a lot of young guys that could break into the midfield. Haley's obviously going to play. Matt Crouch is there. Sloan might play elsewhere, but might also play midfield. And there's Schoenberg, Chase Jones. Hopefully he comes along for the Crows. And there's a few young guys that haven't played a game. Ben Keys as well. So a lot of guys can run through there. But Laird, for me, him and Matt Crouch, clearly the best two midfielders right now. I'd say Laird is even better. So lots to unpack here. But we can get into the risk assessment. And there's not really a lot in terms of risk assessment, there's not really a lot of concerns here. This is probably as good as it gets, just about. So we can go over this. And obviously, if I highlight something red, that means it's a high risk, and there's no high risk things here. There's one moderate risk I have here, and that's it. So job security is fine, no interrupted pre-season. He's not injury prone. I think he had a soft tissue injury 3 years ago. Since then, played every game. He's 27 in his prime. Supercoach friendly role, half back or inside mid, both are fine. Played half forward one game, but that's more the next point. Is he at risk for a role change, and what's the downside? So he might go back to defence. I seriously doubt it. Training with a midfield group, and In defence, the Crows want to play Will Hamill, who's coming along really well, had a few concussions. Wayne Miller's best position is clearly defence, and he needs to play there. He's been injured. And Brodie Smith can play. He's our designated kick-in taker along with Luke Brown. So, those guys that I've just named can rotate on a wing, and also McPherson can play a bit at halfback. But those guys ideally will rotate halfback and wing, and that will free up Laird to play midfield. So there might be times where Brodie Smith goes into the midfield and Laird plays halfback for a bit, but for the most part, I would be shocked if Laird doesn't play 70% midfield. So the downside of a role change, it's not that bad. And half forward, I severely doubt he plays half forward. He's just too good to give up in the midfield. If there were games on the line, you need to throw Laird in the midfield. He just played that well. In his second game, he dropped to 180. Proven scorer, yes. Defence, and what we've seen in the midfield, it's probably not big enough sample size in the midfield, but yeah, he's been an elite ball winner for many years. It's just, it's hard to see any sort of drop off in terms of like effort or accumulating the ball, because he's always been able to accumulate wherever he's played. Off-field issues, not that we know of. Multiple tags could happen, but I think, I doubt it. If he gets tagged, probably just move to halfback. Matt Crouch could take a tag off him. Probably not. But I'd be surprised if he got tagged. Maybe once or twice he might, but I don't think it's something to worry about. Is he playing for a team expected to lose a lot, and would that affect his scoring? The Crows could lose a lot. That is a possibility, but he showed that he can score well despite the Crows playing poorly. So that's not a worry. Does this player have a strong work ethic? It's off the charts as it seems. It kind of sets the standards. Point sharing, not a thing. So this is a low risk pick, and my verdict on Rory Laird: wipe out your defence, put Laird there, and then go from there. I think you have to pick him. The upside is too good to pass up, and the downside, there's barely any downside. There's almost no downside. So, perfect durability, consistency. Hasn't dropped below 70 since 2017. A score below 70, and it's 2021 now. One less headache. Start Laird. Enjoy the upside that could happen, and if not, probably 90s average if he plays halfback, which I severely doubt that happens. Laird should play a lot of midfield time this year, and he will reward you.